So we have a listener question, Patreon listener question. If you are interested and you want to ask a question on the podcast, or you just want to support what we do, we have a Patreon. Check the description below. So, shameless plug. So we have a listener question from fan of the podcast, David Cabal. And he wants to know, and this was in the wake of when Omega Supreme came out. And we were going to bring up this listener question earlier, but then, of course, Wonderfest happened, so everything kind of got messed up.
Yeah.
So he asked, do you guys think we'll get a repaint of Omega, like a blue Cybertronian version or something like that? Here's the thing. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's like it's a no-brainer. Like, oh, of course they're going to do a repaint of that. But it's just, I feel that the Titan class has had a really bad track record when it comes to repaints. Like, we could, like, really dial it back and go, like, okay, when Metroplex came out, right? They did repaints within the same character. And what I mean by that, it's like every single one of these Titan classes, they would always do, like, a repaint, but it was still the same thing. So it's like, here's Metroplex with chrome on him, and he comes with some little decoy-like figures for San Diego Comic-Con, and then he has a retail release that has a lot less in the matte paint. But not really a repaint in a sense, more just a mild variant. Did we get a Metro Titan repaint, even though all of us like were saying, oh, it's going to happen? No, we didn't. Then you could argue, oh, well, Fortress Maximus is a repaint retool. Well, that's where you get into a gray area. Then we go on to when Devastator came out. And it's the same thing. We go, oh, well, they're going to do a G2 colors. They could do shattered glass
go
colors.
balls to the wall with
you know,
it.
you would think, but no. All they did was they did a San Diego Comic-Con version that had one kind of really variation to it, and then they had the retail version. And of course, again, you could throw Takara's version in there too. But when you put all three next to each other, it's all the same character with mild variations between them. No big, massive, paint changes going on there. And then you keep going, and it's like it's the same thing. You had Fortress Maximus. Now, Fortress Maximus, you had the American release. You had the San Diego Comic-Con convention version with the sword. You had the Japanese version where they retooled the head and they gave the sword and voices. So it was a little different, that one. And then we did actually get a repaint. We got Grand Maximus. But here's the problem with that one. And we talked about this on the podcast. Grand Maximus went up for pre-order, and they were like, if we get 3,000 pre-orders, it's going to include an exclusive Pretender shell. It didn't even get 1,000 pre-orders. So, and all we know from the information they gave, it's like we only got 1,000 pre-orders, so there's only going to be 1,000 out there. It might have even gotten less in terms of sales. So the thing about that is it really didn't do well. So that probably really hurt the chances of that scale getting repaints, because they actually took a chance with Grand Maximus, and it didn't really get the response they were hoping. And then, of course, you move forward. Trypticon, you could go, oh, they could do Gigastorm repaint from Beast Wars 2nd. There's so many silly ideas you could do with that. They didn't. They just kind of kept it simple. Yeah. And then it's the same thing. They didn't really do anything with Predaking at this moment. I'm just looking away at this for a second. I'm looking at the display. And going like, there was a lot of people hoping for certain repaints of stuff. Even a Brave Maximus from the Fortress Maximus. But again, the Grand Maximus kind of killed that idea. It got to that point where they were going like, I don't think it's worth it to take that risk, to take that large. So now we fall to Omega Supreme. And we go, now, what we've just seen right now with the Titan class, do you think that they would, like, the obvious answer is, oh, you want to do the Guardians, the Omega Sentinels, And it was funny, too, because when I was looking at it, I forget where I had this conversation. I think it was on the Discord. I was saying how, Omega Supreme, he comes with Countdown. And Countdown originally came with the Countdown shuttle base. And if you look at the original Countdown shuttle base, if you kind of painted Omega Supreme in the Omega Sentinel colors, it would kind of be the same colors of the Countdown shuttle base, which was like blues, grays, whites, so it would look almost like Countdown shuttle base in a lot of ways, or zone base as it was called in Transformers Zone. So I mean, it would be cool if it got an Omega Supreme repaint, but at the same time, judging by it's gonna be an Omega Sentinel repaint, but judging by the track record of what's been going on with that scale, it's like I could see an SDCC variant.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they're gonna give gold chrome on the faceplate and maybe a different Micromaster, but otherwise, I don't think we're gonna get some crazy elaborate repaint. I mean, it's sad because there's and again, in the past there's been some real obvious repaints from those other ones, and those ones didn't happen. So I don't want to like burst someone's bubble, but it would be cool to get it, but at the same time I don't see it happening with that price point just yet. And again, if they did, it would probably be that. It would be the Omega Sentinel repaint. I don't really see what else they could repaint out of it. They'd have to really retool it like crazy to get a whole other character out of it, but then who would you be doing? It doesn't really make that much sense. That scale really is, I feel like every year they just kind of use it as a centerpiece for San Diego Comic-Con now. They go like, hey, look at our big thing every year. And I don't think they really think about like, oh, we're going to repaint it again and again afterwards, because by then it's already next year and they want to focus on something else. And they don't want to have that big thing in a repaint on the shelves rotting when they could have a new big thing on the shelves. It's a lot of marketing speak, but that's the way I see it. But again, if they did do a repaint, obviously Omega Sentinel, which would look like Zone Base. That's all I could really say about that.